Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'du. There was something I covered today, mashallah. We have a sisters class here on Thursdays, the first and the third Sunday, here at 12:30, inshallah. And there was something that I covered. It's a class on the purification of the heart. But the first class that we took today was understanding of the heart. And there was a lot of benefits that is definitely relevant to what we're facing now. Firstly, the word heart in Arabic, what is it? Qalb. The word in Arabic for heart is qalb. And qalb comes from the verb qalaba or qallaba. And that means what? Qalaba or qallab. Who knows? To flip. Right, to flip. Or it could mean qalaba, is that yastaqbil shay. Yani wa'a qalib li al-ma, or qalib li shay. For the first thing we understood was the word qalb, and that it is that which flips. What's the connection with the heart and flipping or turning? What's the connection? Even in English, there's a word that coincides with this. Something that flips or turns, and the heart itself. That's the mind, not the heart. Yeah. Your what? Emotions. And even the word emotion comes from what? Motion. Your heart is consistently in what? Motion. And wallahi, these past days, there has been a number of emotions in one moment. You may be happy, you turn on the news. What happens? You're sad, you're angry, right? There's sadness, there's anger, there's anxiety, there's depression, right? And subhanAllah, sometimes it can even lead to despair. We ask Allah to protect us from that. I mean, so your heart is consistently going through these emotions. And that's why al-heart, some scholars say, and it's minority, they say, summi al-qalb li'annahu yataqallab. They call the heart the qalb because it constantly is in motion, right? Or qalib li-shay, or is that it absorbs the information that is around it. So when we talk about the heart yataqallab, this moves us over to the dua that I hope all of us know, and if we don't, we should memorize this dua. And it's the dua that the Prophet ﷺ used to make in his prostration that has this word qalb. And what is it? Who knows? Naam. Ya muqallib al-qulub. Everyone repeat after me. Ya muqallib al-qulub. Ya muqallib al-qulub. Thabbit qalbi. Thabbit qalbi. Ala dinik. Ala dinik. This dua is so eloquent, so important, so comprehensive. The Prophet ﷺ first mentioned a characteristic of Allah. And as we know from the etiquette of dua, is to mention, the best way to perform your dua when calling Allah, when invoking Him, is to call out His name. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Quddus, Ya Afu. And particularly whatever you ask Him or request from Him has some relevance to the name that you called on. Ya Rahman, Irham, Motana. Right? Oh, the merciful, have mercy on our deceased. Right? So when we talk about the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Ya muqallib al-qulub. That's not one of the names of Allah, but it's a characteristic that Allah possesses. That muqallib al-qulub, the one that flips the hearts or turns the hearts or has control over the hearts. And what's interesting here is he used the same three letters that is in the word, what? Qalb. Ya muqallib al-qulub. What's a sign of him flipping the hearts? When someone that was not a believer becomes a believer. So this is why we can make dua for someone to come to Islam. Because we know that's in the power of Al-Hadi, Ar-Rashid, the one that guides, The one that directs, right? So the Prophet ﷺ said, Ya muqallib al-qulub. And this is important to know. SubhanAllah, somebody sent me a video of one askari, was one Israeli soldier, and he was like losing, he was on the brink. He was going at another official within their parliament or whatever gathering, and he was talking about how the nightmares that he has because he's Allah Musta'an, what he's done to so many Muslims. Who knows what that can do to that person? May bring that person to some goodness. May bring him to some goodness, because Allah is muqallib al-qulub, and at the same time, He is shadidu al-iqab. We see the Prophet ﷺ made dua against people as well. So al-muqallib al-qulub, then the Prophet ﷺ makes a request. Thabbit qalbi. Muqallib al-qulub, thabbit. Thabbit. Make my heart what? Firm on what? Your deen. This is important. Firstly, you're asking Allah to do something that you may not, lahidu, you may not have full control over. Sometimes our emotions get the best of us. And this is an important point. Probably all of us have faced this, and I use this especially with the sisters today because they're mothers. Some of us probably looked on our television screen, on our phone, on WhatsApp. We seen video, probably when we heard, that the hospital was bombed, or when we heard that the 6-year-old was killed, stabbed more than 20 times, or when we heard that the information about the babies, 40-something babies being slaughtered by Hamas was false information. You think of the propaganda that's being spread and what it could lead to, and how maybe that propaganda of the false news is in connection with the man that stabbed the baby. Because the man, when he knocked on the door, he stabbed the woman, and he told her to go to the bathroom. Isn't that so? He told her to go. So it was as though he intended to what? To get to that child. Right? Which is possible that it was a retaliation for this false news. You see this, you're angry. You see this, you're angry. While you're looking at this, one of your children say, Mom, Dad, scream your name. What may happen at this moment? You may lash out at your wife, your husband, your child. So this anger is misdirected now. Now it's a certain feeling in the household. It's a certain sadness in the house, right? Children are scared to talk to you, right? Wife is mad at you. Husband is angry with you, right? And because they see your anger, some children may not even want to listen and may not even care of what's going on because they don't want to have that type of attitude. So when we say, the Prophet ﷺ said, Thabbit qalbi, make my heart firm, also allow my emotions to be used in a way that's beneficial. Is it allowed to be angry with what's going on? It's allowed. It's from Iman to be angry. But how do we direct that anger? Is it allowed to be sad? But we direct that sadness in a way that's conducive, because if we let the sadness linger, what can happen? Sadness can lead to what? Anxiety. What else? Depression, which can lead to what? What about your connection with Allah? Depression can lead to what? Huh?
Take you away from Allah.
How? You become sad, you get so sad, hopeless. Hopeless in who? Some of us are already hopeless in humanity. Let's be honest. Then you become hopeless in Allah. You become. That's what I'm. هذا قصدي. You become hopeless in Allah, and that takes you away from Iman. And that's why it's important, brothers and sisters. There's some video of this man, I don't know if you've seen it. This man was telling his boy, don't cry. You ever see this one? He's making wudu. He's like, don't cry. Don't cry. They're from the shuhada. نحن رجال. We're men, don't cry. Yes, one can argue, okay, don't say don't cry, but you understand what he's doing. He's trying to tell them, look, although this is a sad day, the eternity is totally different for our brothers and sisters there. Totally different. Right? So, thabbit qalbi. Make my heart firm in these hard, turbulent times. You know what's so amazing? That we as human beings, we know subconsciously, inna ma'al usri, we even know it. With hardship comes ease. There's nothing we reach in life except without struggle. And Allah knows the capacity and intensity of this struggle that our brothers and sisters are facing. To the degree that He says, automatic, no questions asked, they are from the martyrs. Think of the wisdom of Al-Hakim. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, make my heart firm on your religion, not on anything else. On your religion. And particularly in what aspect of our belief in God do we need to have thabat in? Particularly what? What aspect of our belief in God? Hope. But what? Hope in Allah, but patient with His qadr. Patient with His qadr. Patience with His qadr. Patience with His qadr. We as adults, many of us, it's still a challenge, but it may not be as much of as a challenge as it is for our youth, our 14, 15-year-olds that have just reached puberty and they're starting to have a connection with God. They're starting to understand what life is about, kind of. This is the wisdom why why Allah holds kids accountable when they reach the age of 15, roughly, boys, and girls a little earlier. Because even psychologically, within puberty, psychologically you'll change. Therefore, Allah holds you accountable because He knows what He puts within you from Iman. So many of the youth, and I got a call from Omar earlier today, that there are mothers calling, their youth are asking questions. God, why would God-ish do this? Sensible human question. It's an emotion. But it's important for that emotion to have thabat. It's important for that emotion to have thabat. And that's why the Prophet said, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. To have your heart firm in the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the last thing. It's important for us. Inshallah, we're going to cover certain things that we can do for this thabat, inshallah. But it's important for us to be wise when speaking to people. To be wise when speaking to people. That when we speak to people, that we understand that there's a level of emotions that's there, and we let them process and go through that emotion. At the same time, we still call them back to Allah. We call them back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because that is ultimately what will matter. Can you imagine when the Nakba happened in 1947? I mean, there were many emotions that were happening. They probably would have never have imagined a day that what before October 7th took place, even though before October 7th there was adhab for our Palestinian brothers and sisters. Before the establishment of Jordan and these things to happen, you never know. But we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-musta'an. He's the one that we seek help in, and His promise is near. His nasr is near. Ala inna nasrallahi. The nasr of Allah is qareeb. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep our hearts firm upon His religion. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to, in times of hardship, in times of sadness, in times of anger, in times of depression, in times of questioning God and His authority, that He makes us of those that rely on our anchor and allow that anchor to be the guiding light of how we act within ourselves, with Allah, and with those around us, particularly our loved ones, with our neighbors, and with humanity in general. No, yes, sir. No.
هل هذا الدعاء من النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم جاء نتيجة علمه بأن الله بأن قلوب البشر بين إصبعي الله يقلبها كيف يشاء?
No, the Sheikh is asking the question. He's saying, did the Prophet ﷺ make that dua with the knowledge that the hearts are between between the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's the two fingers? We don't know how His fingers are, but that it's between the two fingers of Allah, and He flips them as He wills. Yes, naam. Will be ilmihi dhalik. So the Prophet ﷺ made this dua knowing that Allah is in control of the hearts, and that's why he turned to Him. Does anyone else have any questions, any comments? Yes.
Chef, is it normal to feel sometimes sort of jealousy of the status of those who are shuhada? That like, man, like there's no way for me to be there, but like I have my own tests. They have their tests, but like, is it how would you comfort someone who has those feelings?
Of jealousy that they wish they could be them?
Yes.
So in a sense, to be shuhada in a way.
This is good. If one should not wish for to how do I say this? When you die shaheed, this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? But you should never ask for the hardship. Never ask for the hardship, right? It's a slight difference. You don't ask for the hardship. As the Prophet used to prohibit from asking for the hardship, right? Because, ultimately we never know, and that's why it's important to, lack of better words, practice the deen. Why? Because you never know when that time will come. Will you say La ilaha illallah at that moment? Right? Is your heart moist with the dhikr and remembrance of Allah? Because if we're not praying, if we're not reading Quran, if we're not remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how are we going to have our du'as answered? And at that time, when that time comes, which we don't know, what will be our status? So someone is jealous from the aspect of, yes, being a shuhada, of the status of the shuhada, but don't ask Allah for the trial in which one would become a shuhada, a shaheed. No? So it's just ask Allah to bless you and to make you of those that He is pleased with, inshallah ta'ala. No. I was off one? No, 15th of May. May 15th, 1948 is the Nakba. Please look it up, N-E-K or N-I-K-B-A or B-A-H, May 15th, 1948. And what's interesting as well, for our Muslim community, and I'll stop here, mashallah, we have predominantly Arab and what? Indo-Pak, right? We say Indo-Pak. Why? 1947. Same year, roughly. When in Pakistan became Pakistan. Around the same year that Jordan became Jordan. Yes, very good. Did you put it on WhatsApp? Jazakallah khair. Yes, yes. There's a 4-part video on Jazeera that speaks about Nakba. Okay? So, important to learn our history, inshallah, and this will help us in understanding the future. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.